My name is Joli and I'm a data dissemination specialist with the U.S. Census Bureau. So today we're going to take a deep dive into poverty, and hopefully by the end of this, you'll better understand the difference between the official poverty measure, the supplemental poverty measure, and a number of data sets, and we'll also access some data tools. So get ready, hold on to your seat. I've been a data dissemination specialist for over 3 years. I work with all sorts of areas of the public, from students to libraries to nonprofits to many New York City agencies, state agencies, congressional district offices, and more. I am available for presentations like this one and on other topics. So feel free to reach out to me. I put my email into the chat and I'll leave it again at the end. I'm happy to be joined by my colleague, Monica Dukes, who is one of 22 other data dissemination specialists across the country. She will be answering questions in the chat. Wave hello, Monica, if you want to. And also, there's Monica. And I'm also really thrilled to have Brian Glassman, who's the chief of our poverty branch, who's also answering questions in the chat. So I see a lot of people are chiming in from different organizations. So they will be fielding questions while I share a lot of information and do some live demonstration. So thank you, Monica and Brian, for being with us. So just before we dive into poverty, I want to give a little bit of overview about the U.S. Census Bureau, just a minute and a half. We are the largest of 13 statistical agencies in the federal government. We sit within the Department of Commerce, and we conduct censuses and surveys each year. What we're most well known for is the decennial census, the largest non-military operation of the government, where we do a head count of the nation every 10 years. The American Community Survey, the ongoing annual survey of snapshot of the American public, more on that a little later, and the economic census, which is the official 5-year measure of American businesses. We conduct that every 5 years, ending in 2 and 7. So the next one's coming up in 2027. While you may hear of many of the statistics that we produce, some of them that are more well-known are actually ones where we collect the data. So we have the offices, the people on the ground, the mechanisms for reaching out to people and random sampling the nation. And we often turn that data over to other agencies. So, for example, the Bureau of Labor Statistics releases the unemployment rate, but we are the ones collecting the data. So our mission is to serve as the nation's leading provider of quality data about its people, places, and economy. Now, onto poverty. So we'll define poverty. We'll then go into some of the data sets, and we will look at some data tools. So here we go. So each year, the Census Bureau releases 2 poverty measures to identify who is poor in the United States. For both measures, individuals are considered poor if the resources they share with others in the household are not enough to meet basic needs. So 2 measures, the official poverty measure and the supplemental poverty measure, but they're both very different. So in terms of who shares resources, let's break down that in the official poverty measure, we're assuming that individuals residing together who are related by birth, marriage, or adoption share income. So they're pooling their income, paying for their rent, their mortgage, etc. The supplemental poverty measure starts with the family and then adds some unrelated people like foster children and unmarried partners. So for the case of demonstration, let's think about a household that features an unmarried couple that have a child. So we've got Jane, her spouse, her unmarried partner, Maria, and Maria's son, Jose, with Maria's mother, Juanita, who's Jose's grandmother. And then we have Marcus, and he's just been renting a room in their house for the past year. So Marcus is completely unrelated to the other 4 people. In terms of the official federal poverty measure, those are people who are residing together related by birth, marriage, and adoption. In that unit, in this household, breaking it down, Marcus remains separate, right? He's not related to any of the others. Of the unmarried couple, Maria, her son Jose, and her mother Juanita would be considered another unit. And then Maria's partner, Jane, unmarried partner, would also be considered separate. So you can see that's how they would be looked at. For the supplemental poverty measure, the unmarried couple, Jane and Maria, the son Jose, and Juanita would all be part of one unit. And the roommate, Marcus, not related to any of them, again, would be considered separately. So how do we measure need? In the supplemental poverty measure, we're looking at information about what people spend today for basic needs: food, clothing, shelter, utilities, and telecommunications. The official poverty measure is, we look at that by the 3 times the cost of a minimum food diet from 1963, adjusted for today's prices. So very different ways at looking at needs. Let's look further at that. With the official poverty measure, we're looking at resources like wages and earnings, Social Security, unemployment, retirement, interest and dividends, and public assistance. We do not include taxes paid. We do not include tax credits or stimulus payments or non-cash payments like SNAP nutritional benefits or Medicaid. With the supplemental poverty measure, you can see on the left, that's all of the cash that we're including income plus all of those other things: SNAP, utility, WIC, tax credits, school lunch, housing subsidies. And we're subtracting elements like childcare expenses for while people are at work, taxes, child support paid, and medical expenses. For the supplemental poverty measure, we do consider geography as a factor. So you'll see different measures across the country, as opposed to the official poverty measure, which is that one number. So in 2024, the poverty threshold for a family with 2 adults and 2 children was $31,812. That is a static number, and it is unchanged. So if I'm considering whether someone's below the official poverty threshold in Mississippi or in New York City, we're looking at the same number. But those vary for the supplemental poverty measure. So let's look at this in the next chart. So here, this chart, on the left-hand side in orange, there's that official poverty measure for units with 2 adults and 2 children. And on the right-hand side of the chart, you can see that the supplemental poverty measure has different rates based on owners with a mortgage, owners without a mortgage, and renters, with the renters having the highest income threshold for the supplemental poverty measure. So taking this, as I mentioned, with the supplemental poverty measure, we can look at different geographies. And here for New York City, I took a look at a spreadsheet, which I'm going to pull up in a minute, which shows the supplemental poverty measure breakdowns for the national in blue, just like in the previous slide, and for the New York City, for the New York metropolitan statistical area in red. So that New York metropolitan statistical area is all of New York City, plus some surrounding suburbs, Newark, Jersey City, and more. It is the largest metropolitan statistical area in the country, covering about 19 million in population. So this gives you a little bit of comparison of those poverty thresholds for New York City versus national. Now, so where did I find that data? I always find we present so much, but we don't always show people exactly where to find things. So here we've got the supplemental poverty measure thresholds. There are 2 tables here. I looked at this table, which was thresholds by metro area. I'm going to quickly take us to this page online and open this up. So it just popped up on my screen. I'm going to open the Excel table, which hopefully will open quickly. Here it comes. So I'm sharing this with you just because it should be self-explanatory. I found it a little tricky here. When you want to find a specific, so this is defaulting to Alabama. They're alphabetical. So if I look in here and I put in New York, for example, you can either use the drop down or put in New York. What will show up is the metropolitan statistical area and this New York non-metro area. When I click on New York non-metro, you can see how different those supplemental poverty measure rates are, right? They go, instead of being higher than the national average, they're lower. So that's an example for you. And thank you, Monica, for putting that into the chat. Now, back to the presentation. So moving on to a case study related to a family in Akron, Ohio, a family of 4 living in Akron, Ohio in 2023, and they're renting an apartment. So their pre-tax money income, just to show you how this can break down, their pre-tax money income is $35,000. To get to their supplemental poverty resources, we would look at adding in their net taxes and SNAP benefits, and then subtracting their work and childcare expenses. And that would leave us for a net of $25,700 for their supplemental poverty measure resources. The official poverty measure threshold is $30,900 in 2023. The supplemental poverty measure threshold is $33,763. So according to the official poverty measure threshold, this family has $35,000 in pre-tax money income, and that's greater than the official poverty measure threshold. So that family is not considered poor in this instance. For the supplemental poverty measure, they have $25,700 in resources, which is less than the supplemental poverty measure threshold. So the family is considered poor under that supplemental poverty measure rate. I'm unpacking this, but I just want to make sure that you know that the vast majority of the country does not fall into this situation. Most people are either considered poor or not considered poor by both measures. So when do we use each poverty measure? For the official poverty measure, since that data is available back to 1959, you can look at long-term trends at the national level. Also, let's say you were looking for a grant on grants.gov and you found a federal grant to apply for local funds or state funds, you would really often be asked for that official poverty measure. So apples to apples across the country. For the supplemental poverty measure, we have data going back to 2009. So from 2009 on, you can see that more complete measure of resources, including tax credits, government assistance, and key expenses. You also can look at geographies across the country. So you can compare cities to non-metro areas, et cetera, and look at those through that supplemental poverty measure lens. So this data visualization shows us the supplemental poverty measure rate, which in 2024 was 12.9%. So according to the supplemental poverty threshold, 12.9% of the population fell below that supplemental poverty measure. The official poverty measure for 2024 was 10.6%. And the poverty rate decreased from the 2023 estimate. This graph shows poverty rates using the official and the supplemental poverty measures. In blue, you can see the supplemental poverty measure, and in orange, the official poverty measure rate. And you can see how in around just past 2020, we start to see that dip as those stimulus payments start to boost people's income so that they fall below the supplemental poverty measure. And then as those stimulus supplements started to go away, you see it rise again. So pretty consistently, the supplemental poverty measure falls above is positioned above the official poverty measure. So this is where I'm phoning a friend to have Brian talk about this data visualization, about the difference in poverty rates by state using the official and supplemental poverty measures. Brian, you want to speak to this one? I'm probably taking him out of a big question in the chat.
Yeah, no, this is just showing the different states where the SPM is higher than the official, where it's not, we cannot say that it is different. So we would say not statistically different. They may numerically might be a little bit apart, but all of these rates have error along with them because they're survey estimates. And then where the SPM is lower than the official. And in some work that we do, we try to break down like why that might be the case. There is a working paper that is hopefully coming out soon that is looking at people that are poor according to one measure, but not according to the other measure, and how maybe they differ by demographics and stuff like that. And that can be seen in the different states.
Okay. Thanks so much for chiming in. Okay, here we go. Now, Brian's team puts together incredible reports as to people who report on other surveys. And I just wanted to highlight 3 of them here. This 2024 poverty in the United States, that's the official poverty measure that comes from the Current Population Survey Annual Social and Economic Supplement. It's a very helpful in-depth report. So I'm giving you a sort of top view here, but I would encourage people who are interested in the different statistics to really look at these 3 reports. So now let's get into the different data sets. So we love acronyms at the Census Bureau, but I'm going to unpack the acronyms for you. We're going to talk about the CPS ASEC, the American Community Survey, the Survey of Income and Program Participation, and the Small Area Income and Poverty Estimates. These all roll off my tongue because I've been learning about them for the past 6 years. But just stick with it, and hopefully you'll find the data set that's best for your needs in terms of poverty. So the Current Population Survey is the longest running survey conducted by the U.S. Census Bureau. It goes back to 1959. And the Annual Social and Economic Supplement, which is part of it, is collected annually in February, March, and April. The 2023 sample consisted of approximately 90,000 addresses. Due to this sample size, we recommend looking at 1-year estimates, which are represented at the national level, and 3-year averages are suggested for states. This survey, the CPS Annual Social and Economic Supplement, is the official source of national poverty estimates. So every September, we release a report like the one I shared on the slide earlier, which provides our national poverty numbers using this survey and provides data by race, education, and other variables. So I highlighted here one of our wonderful America Counts stories, which talks about how education impacted income and earnings from 2004 to 2024. This all relies on data from the CPS ASEC. And you can see in the data visualization on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see how higher levels of education correlate with higher incomes. If you wanted to find the tables that relate to the CPS ASEC, you would go to this page, which has a number of different poverty tables, and you can see the different breakdowns. So this is where you actually find the data. You can also access the Current Population Survey data through our wonderful microdata access tool. So this is a subset of our data, but we encourage you to take a look at it. It's probably easier to use for more advanced users, but I did include a link to a wonderful video that shows how you can access that microdata access tool and ways to use it with my colleague, Maria Valdezera. If anyone's interested in doing a separate session for the organization on MDAT, I'm happy to be helpful. The second data set that I want to mention is the American Community Survey. This is the gold standard of census data. Every year, we randomly sample every county in the nation over a 12-month period and release estimates once a year. We reach out to about 3.5 million addresses, and we get roughly 2.2 million responses back. So it's a rolling survey. And when we release that data, and it covers 66 questions, it's incredibly deep in terms of topics and subject matter. And when we release the survey, we release 1-year results, usually in September, for larger geographies, so populations of 65,000 and above. For all other geographies, we release 5-year data. So for states, for counties with smaller populations, for census tracts, and places like cities and towns, you can find that 5-year American Community Survey data, usually released in December. It came out a little later this year due to our unfortunate lapse in appropriations. So I was speaking with the ACS expert and on poverty, Craig Benson, and he wrote the article on the left where about many U.S. counties having high poverty rates over 20 years. This is a happy birthday to the ACS year, as you can now access 20 years of data over time for the American Community Survey. On the right-hand side, you can see where there is more persistent poverty by state in terms of counties. Interestingly, I believe in New York, only Bronx County counted in this as part of this map. So Craig and I looked that up. Survey of income and program participation. So SAIPE is a household survey that began in 1983. It's a longitudinal survey where we follow the same respondents over time. So usually for about 4 years, we follow these individual respondents and we can see what happens to people from 1 month to the next. The sample size is about 50,000 addresses, which is the smallest of the 3 surveys that we've discussed. And we interview people between January and June. So this particular survey really allows for the measurement of chronic and episodic poverty. In chronic poverty, the individuals are consistently under the poverty threshold over time, while in episodic poverty, they may go in and out of poverty. 1 month they may have a job, and 2 months later, that position may end and they may fall below the poverty line. So there's a great deal of detail in this survey related to program participation. So that's SAIPE. And I'm showing here, but I'm not going to demonstrate this one because I want to get you into data.census.gov. I'm showing a SAIPE data visualization where you can select and look at the average percentage distribution of income by age among adults with any income. And you can also you can select a number of filters to filter this SAIPE data. So the latest data is from 2023 for SAIPE. Finally, the Small Area Income and Poverty Estimates, our SAIPE program. These estimates provide model-based income and poverty estimates for all states, counties, and school districts. They provide estimates of poverty rates based on ACS 1-year data, so American Community Survey 1-year data, plus a mix of administrative data. You can find this data from 1995 to 2023. And the data, you can also sort the data by different categories, including all ages, under age 18, ages 5 to 17, and families, and under age 5. So it's a really nice way to look at a breakdown of that under age 18 data. And SAIPE is probably best known for the ability to look at data by school districts because it's used by the U.S. Department of Education to determine Title I allocations of federal funds to states and school districts. So this is what our SAIPE interactive tool looks like. And I'm just going to take you in it for 1 second. So this is the tool. It's pretty intuitive. You can look by school district. It's less exciting to look by school district in New York City because we're one unified school district. But here, if we look at counties and under age 18, and we can filter by state. So here I'm going to put in New York. Let's put in New York. and that's my state. And I'm going to go to counties. I think I had this up before, so it selected my counties for me. Oh, here, let's clear my selections. So here I am with the blank tool, and I'm going to click on county, and this is going to list all the counties. So I click on New York, I put in New York. All of a sudden, I can select all of these counties in New York, hit OK, and now you can see that I'm focused on specifically on counties in New York State. Let's put under 18, and it immediately shifts me to under 18 data. And you can see the number in poverty. I know it might be a little small for the United States, then New York State, and then for counties, I'm going to click on number in poverty. And now this will sort by the number in poverty. For New York State, it's 697,721, according to SAIPE. And then going down, we can see Kings County, Bronx County, Queens County, etc. That's just under 18. If I go back to all ages, it will now list the poverty for all ages in New York State, 22,702,081. And then it actually has Kings County above Bronx County in these estimates. But you can also see the percent in poverty falls on the right. So it's an easy tool to use. It's an easy tool to use. I encourage everyone to take a quick look at it or to dive in after the session. So now going back to our slide deck. So if there were one slide when I first saw this presentation that I would take a snapshot of, even though I promise I'm going to email a PDF of the presentation to everyone, it would probably be this slide, because often I'm asked a lot of questions related to poverty statistics, or where do I find this, or what's available, or what's the latest year it's available. And this chart does a nice job of outlining where you can find the official poverty rates, where you can find supplemental poverty rates, and the poverty estimates according to size of geography. So there you go. And then I'm not going to go through all these resources because I want you to get you to the live demo, but just know we have a tremendous amount of poverty resources, including how to access different tools and different platforms. So now let's move to data.census.gov, and I'll do a quick demonstration or two, and then we'll get to some questions that have been coming up in the chat. So here I'm going to bring us to data.census.gov. And when I pull this up, this is one of the main repositories. It's a truly wonderful resource where we can do maps and charts. And up here, you can see the microdata. And I'm going to look, I could put in a single search, but because I know in my example, hold on, let's go back to my example for a second. We're going to use data.census.gov to compare poverty levels for all counties in New York State using ACS 5-year estimates. We're going to select table S1701, which is a poverty table. We'll map the data and then show the data in a chart with percent of poverty for individuals 18 and younger. And then we'll manipulate the chart. So that's what we're going to do. Back to data.census.gov. So for advanced search, I could search by address, or I could explore a filter. So on the left-hand side, you can see lots of filters loading. I happen to know the most recent data was 2024, so I'm going to select 2024. And then I want all counties in the state. So I'm going to look under county, the lowest level of geography I'm looking for. Then I'm going to click on New York, and I can select all counties within New York. So as I'm clicking on these filters on the left-hand side, you can see that they're loading. I can also X out of them if I want to change those variables. And sometimes, like today, we need to be just a little patient. All of these different topics have a wealth of subtopics. In this case, I'm going to income and poverty, then poverty and poverty. And once I have my variables, my filters loaded, I click search in the lower right-hand corner, and up comes my data. All of this data, the maps, etc., this is all open data. You can copy it, you can paste it, you can send it to a friend. I'm going to choose S1701, which is poverty status in the past 12 months. And you can see that my data has populated. I can remove the margin of error. And now, for the sake of this is a very rich poverty table, it gives you all the way down to unrelated individuals for whom poverty status, hang on. You can see the age breakdowns. You can see a statistic here, which sometimes people have a little bit of trouble. It seems a little abstract. For individuals with income below the following poverty levels, if someone's income is 50% of the poverty level, it basically means it's half of that poverty threshold. So if the threshold were $15,000, it means they basically have $7,500. And now I'm going to map this data. So I can click on maps either in more tools over here. This is called the table ribbon. Up at the top, I can download the data. I can see how to cite the data. I can share the data. I can go right to the Census API, but I want to map the data. So I'm going to go up here to maps. Now you can see my map showing. However, my map is showing 1 year American Community Survey estimates. I know this because the data isn't showing for a number of these counties, which are probably below, or they must be below the 65,000 in population threshold. So I'm just going to go to data set. I can do that up here, or I can do that over here where the table is. And I'm going to click on the 5-year estimates. And you can see immediately how the whole table, how the whole map is populated. And I'm zooming in here because I can see by the legend there's one county with the highest percent below the poverty level, and that's Bronx County in New York State at 27.8%. So this is a little bit about how you can filter and find data in the map. I could also change the variable. So I wanted to look at under 18. I go just here to the left of the select button. This is a really important down arrow. And this lets me change my variable. So I could look at this by race. I could look at it by age. And I could also change the dimension to look at it by number. So now when I look at these numbers, I get 443,800 in Queens, for example, for under 18 population for whom poverty status is determined. So that was just a little quick demo of one way to look at data.census.gov. And I'm going to show you one more way. Oh, hold on. I forgot to show you the chart. Let's go back there. And now from the map or from the table, I could also click on charts. And what this will do is immediately generate this nice chart. This is a new feature in data.census.gov. I can sort it by descending measure, and I could change the chart type and make it a column chart. That's the charts feature. Okay. The next thing I'll share before we take questions from everyone is I'm going to use the map to locate some census. We can look at census tracts with the highest percent of recipients collecting SNAP benefits. And then I'm going to change the variable. So to clear out data.census.gov, I go to this little link on the right. I know for many of you watching, it used to be this link on the left, but this is a new functionality. If you click on this one on the left, it'll take you to this link, the logo on the left, it will take you to census.gov. So just remember that link is there. So now I'm going to search by an address. I'm going to go to 197 East Broadway, which is down in Chinatown. It's near Chinatown. It's near Seward Park. It's where the Educational Alliance is located. When I search by an address, I can see all of the different geographies that correspond to that address. In this case, I'm going to look at the census tract, so a smaller level of geography. And I'm going to select, I'm going to go to the map to see where I am. And I can use this select feature and select a bunch of census tracts. I can overlay boundaries. Like if I wanted to see community board districts, I'd do public use microdata areas, for example. And then I can also deselect certain ones if I wanted to. But at this point, I want to put some data into this map. And so I'm just working backwards from what I did before. So I'll go to income and poverty. Let's look at SNAP data. And if you like this table, S2201, you can write down the number, you can bookmark it, you can put it into our single search on the first page. So this is just another way to get to compare data and to get into the maps or charts from the map instead of from going straight to the filters. So that's my demo of data.census.gov. Short demo, short and sweet. There's so much more to explore. And a number of data tools. So we looked at table S1701. This will all be including the poverty reports, which we already put the links in the chat. And then I just want to make sure that you know that census.gov/academy has lots of resources, including courses, online courses, and data gems, as well as webinars, recorded webinars, and our upcoming national webinars. And Brian and Monica, how are we doing with our questions in the chat?
Joli, this is Monica, and we didn't have a lot of questions. We did just get one, so I'm going to read it to you. What data platform is used to generate the tables and visualizations on the data.census.gov site?
It's our own proprietary platform. So it's something that our team has built from the ground up.
And Joli, Karma asked the question, so I wanted to ask, was that what you were looking for, or did you have more to add to that question?
No, that was exactly what I was wondering, if it was like a version of Power BI or something off the shelf, but great that you guys customized and created something. It's amazing.
Karma, it wouldn't surprise me if we incorporated some off the shelf software into the tool, but I know that is something that and we work with contractors to do some of this work, but it's something that we created and released. Frankly, I feel like this iteration hasn't been around for that long. People used to be very attached to a tool, to American Fact Finder and something called Data Ferret, but really data.census.gov is where it's at. And you can find information for a number of our surveys, and even you can dig into our business data using North American Industry Classification System codes, using data.census.gov. It's a wonderful resource. You can get, and also all of our decennial data since 2010 is on the site.
The next question that I see, is there a cheat sheet with the list of all the possible tables?
That's an interesting question. So in terms of the tables, when we were looking at data.census.gov, there is a table shell list, which you can search so you can see what is there and what's not there. But in terms of all of the all-inclusive poverty tables, you could certainly search by poverty as a subject on that list. But I'm not sure, Brian, there's an exhaustive cheat sheet of all poverty tables.
On our website, we do have a number of tables, but I don't think there's like a list or anything like that. I would just use the search feature and search poverty or search different terms to be able to find what you're looking for. And we're also able to help if there's something specific that you want, and you can reach out to our branch.
Thanks, Brian. So I think that's what I have in terms of the presentation. I hope that this has been very helpful to everyone on the call. And please feel free to reach out if you think it would be beneficial to your organization to get either to have a census data overview or to go deeper into some of our topics or tools.